Hello everybody, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Beth, the one and only.
And today we're reviewing Tomb Raider, specifically the Remastered edition. Now this game, as many of you know, comes in a remastered trilogy of the first 3 Tomb Raider games. This game has been reworked from the ground up in pretty much every way possible. Character models, the rooms, the environments, the enemies that you go across, even little things like the med packs and the weapons. The graphics have been lifted to a point to where they're not quite modern, but they look a lot better than they used to. And some models, like Lara's model and some of the animal models, look absolutely fantastic now.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. It's considered a beloved classic by its fan base, but yes, it was in desperate need of a facelift.
We'll show you some direct comparisons here.
And I will do the honors of showing you those screenshots. Alright, here it is. Here. 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 And here.
And also, don't worry, Retro Spinks can't hurt you.
Yeah, it took a lot of courage to look at that one again, but yes, ladies and gentlemen, Retro Spinks can't hurt you.
One thing you'll notice right off the bat is that every single item in this game has been reworked to some degree. Even many items that were previously flat textures with the illusion of 3D now have full 3D models. Now, there is a difference in the quality of some of the things that have received an upgrade. For example, the main characters, especially Lara herself, have received a lot more detail than something like a bear in the game has. But even the animals have received some notable upscaling, some animals more than others. For example, the T-Rex is a lot more detailed than the gorilla is.
Yes, I would say the T-Rex is the best one, and I'm not just being biased here. The gorillas kind of look like baboons, and let's not forget the crocodiles. You can actually tell they're crocodiles. Instead of having a green cylinder triangle thing, you know, all those shapes in all the wrong places or in the right places but looks pretty choppy, that's gone. And the eyes above the head actually look like they're on top of the head.
But the graphical improvements don't just stop at touch-ups. You see, there's been things added to the game that make it even better than just replacing and improving what was already there. Things like snowfall in the caves of Peru and lighting all throughout the game. There has been breaks added in the ceilings no matter what kind of level you're in, whether it's a cave, a room, or a tomb. There's always places for the light to shine through and show how good the modern graphics are through better lighting. There's also been extra sounds added in places to give a more atmospheric feel to things like waterfalls and such. The graphical overhaul this game does is really nice. Everything has been touched up to some degree, and there's even been things added in places, and it's a lot better than what it would have used to look like. It looks as good as your mind's eye remembers. If you haven't played Tomb Raider in years, this is probably what you remember it looking like. But if you were to go and boot up the old PS1 game now, it would look so much worse than what you remember. So it's really nice to have these remasters. And if you're curious about how much of an improvement it really is, just press on the options button and you'll see the old graphics. That's one of the great things about this remaster. You can switch between the new and old graphics at the click of a button.
And another point I'd like to make, while I like retro games, a modern person is going to have a hard time getting into this.
This game is very good, but you have to have the right taste for it. If you've only played the reboot Tomb Raider games, or you've only played modern games, this is going to feel very foreign to you. It's not because it's bad, but it's because it comes from a different time. A time when gaming was still a much less established medium, and not only that, but this is an early 3D game. And so a lot of basic things like moving and jumping are going to feel very awkward to someone who is used to only modern gaming. However, from my perspective, the more you play and the more you get used to it, the less awkward it feels. It's different, but it's so different it's almost like a genre of its own. and if you have the taste for it, it can become quite enjoyable. The game does have a modern control scheme. However, don't fool yourself into thinking that it's going to make it feel like a completely modern game, because it simply isn't going to do that. This is a retro game through and through. The modern controls will make it a little more accessible to you, but there is still a lot you need to get used to here. Throughout the entire playthrough, I stuck with the modern controls, and I really enjoyed them. There were times where I briefly switched to the tank controls. Now, this was mostly when I was in an enclosed area, or when I was just anywhere the camera couldn't freely move around. A lot of times the camera would go crazy in situations like that, and that was when I would switch to the tank controls that seemed to have a better behaving camera. The rest of the time, however, I would stick with the modern controls, and I absolutely loved it. This game is actually full of funny death sequences. Actually, let's show a few examples of that.
Firing at me? Ain't nobody else, so you must be firing at me.
This is a pretty simple game in terms of combat, but there are 4 different types of gun. There's the standard pistols that Lara carries. These have unlimited ammo. The other 3 guns, however, do have an ammo count, and those 3 guns are the Magnums, the Uzis, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and the shotgun, all of which are far superior to the pistols but are limited.
As far as gunfights go, Laura can backstep, backflip, and side flip in order to dodge her foe.
If none of those work, just the odd jump here and there can be very effective as well.
Yeah, basically it's a game of cat and mouse. You gotta get to the enemy before he gets to you.
When it comes to jumping, Lara almost gives Mario a run for his money.
Yeah, she can take some pretty, anybody else would be cringing. Like, how can somebody do that?
Of course, the bulk of the game is not in gunfights. The bulk of the game is in puzzle solving. This is basically the genre that Tomb Raider excels in, because most of the game is going to revolve around a really hard puzzle. And when I say really hard, I mean some of these really require you to put your thinking cap on. I think that this game was definitely built with the ideal of a strategy guide in mind, because honestly, without a strategy guide, I could see some people raging back in the 90s when this game was new.
Yeah, it just drops you by yourself like a bad mother and just leaves you to fend for yourself.
And this game expects you to do things to solve its puzzles that you would never see in a modern game. It's like when the video started and we said this game is a retro game through and through. This is where that is apparent more than anywhere else. This game expects you to think in a way that you're not going to be used to. It does not spell things out for you at all.
Yeah, there's nothing. Not even a blip on the map. There's nothing.
For example, modern games like Uncharted, whenever you're on a puzzle, after a while it would give you a hint that basically spelled the puzzle out for you. Not here.
No, but just like any muscle, if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
The game also has a fair degree of platforming, which is where Lara's exceptional jumping comes into play. There'll be many times where you have to jump, run and jump, or grab onto a ledge, scurry across ledges while hanging off of them. There's even a couple instances where you have to do backflips. So platforming in this game is a little bit more of a technique than it is in just your standard 3D platformer. You have to have a real skill about it. There's a certain technique to controlling Lara, and it's something that you have to get used to.
Yeah, let me put it in perspective for you. In the old days when you had nothing but the tank controls and that camera, a backflip was pretty much the promise of falling. Like, you were gonna fall. You were gonna blow that and you were gonna fall. And the only way you was ever gonna be happy is if you messed up like 100 plus times, and then by chance, by God, by chance, after that session of pizza rolls and Mountain Dew, you actually get it. And people think you're weird because you're obsessing over a jump. And forgive me for being totally random, but were pizza rolls invented in the 90s? I can't remember.
I don't know if they were invented in the 90s, but I know that they would go very well with this game.
I would think they would, but I'm gonna have to Google it. I'm sorry.
Okay, we Googled it, and the concept itself did not come from the 90s. However, the name Totino's did, so I consider that an absolute win.
Yeah, it's an absolute win, but I have to apologize. This pizza roll concept has escaped me.
Now, with all those hard jumps we were talking about, it's important to remember that this game has unlimited saving, and you're going to want to make very good use of that, because if you don't, I promise you are going to have some rage quits. By the time I completed the first game, I had well over 200 saves, and that's how I was able to complete it with relative ease. Basically, I didn't give this game a chance to do me in.
Yeah, every time you pass an enemy or you make a really hard jump or even a minor one, then you need to save it.
Don't be afraid to abuse that save button, okay? Make that save button regret ever being born. But don't accidentally click the load button when you're trying to save, because when I first started playing this remaster, that happened to me a lot. And there were some instances in which it was really inconvenient, but eventually I got used to how it worked and I stopped hitting load instead of save all the time. But I can almost promise you that's going to happen to you a few times, so be ready for that.
Yeah, and I'm going to laugh every single time it happens to you.
The story is very simple. Basically, what you need to know is that Lara Croft is an archaeologist/adventurer. She's approached by a mercenary named Larson who works for a businesswoman who hires Lara Croft to find an artifact that's in Peru. This is why Peru is the first area that's in the game. And as we're exploring Peru, we see a lot of icy caves, we see lots and lots of bats, lots of wolves, and dinosaurs. Velociraptors and T-Rex to be specific. That's quite a boss fight, isn't it?
Yep, death around every corner. Some players will have more than they can handle on this thing, but I'm sure you can get through it. I believe in you.
That is something that will live on in players' memories for many, many years to come. I know that T-Rex boss fight is something that I remembered about the game all the way from way back when I first played it, when I first got into PS1 games. Oh, and there's also bears. These things are pretty hard to kill, and they also have one of the weirdest looking new models.
Yeah, watch out for the bears. They can get you pretty quickly.
This segment ends with Larson double-crossing Lara, and he gets swiftly kicked in the face for it.
Yeah, well, what? You expect me to feel sorry for him?
Well, I mean, it looked like it really hurt. You could feel a little sorry for him.
He's trying to kill her.
Yeah, that's a good point. After we're done in Peru, we'll find ourselves in Greece, and in Greece we will see the difficulty get a lot more difficult. The jumps will get harder, the puzzles will get more difficult to solve. This part of the game will definitely have you putting your thinking cap on at every corner. You're also going to be seeing tougher foes on average, a lot of gorillas and a lot of lions in this part.
Now wait a minute, Jeremy. Hold up a minute. Isn't there boy and girl lions down there?
Yeah, there is.
Okay. They're together by themselves?
Yeah.
They're at least spayed and neutered, right?
No, we don't spay and neuter wild animals. Yeah.
Oh my god. Jerry, you gotta talk me down. All those lions making little lion babies? I mean, they look pretty well fed. Probably from all the people who went down there, but there's still lion babies. There's too many lions. No. They're everywhere. They're going to be coming out of the walls and out of the tomb thingies and everything. Talk me down.
Listen, I am continuing with this review. I'm going to give you a Rice Krispie treat, and then we will get back to it.
Don't give me that Rice Krispie treat. I mean, I want it later, but do you have a paper bag? Okay, all right. It's got a hole in it.
Okay, look, enough. I'm getting back to the review. Anyway, the lions and gorillas are seriously going to get on your nerves sometimes in this part of the game. Every single time you enter a new room or a trap door, it seems like there's either a group of lions or gorillas waiting on you. But hey, it makes for some fun encounters, and honestly, it's cool seeing them.
Yeah, it is kind of nice, isn't it?
Also, there's this dude that's chasing you around all throughout Greece. He encounters you in pretty much every level, and at the end of the Greece segment of the game, you finally have a full-out fight with him. But it's just really odd that several times throughout this section of the game, you run into this guy, he shoots at you a few times, and after you shoot back at him a little, he just runs away.
Yeah, that guy is relentless. I mean, no means no. He keeps showing up, and when you finally do put a stop to him, it's very satisfying.
It starts with you finding a can of baked beans that he left on the ground, and yeah, it's just a funny time.
Yeah, there's not a lot there, so it's kind of, oh, there he is again, sort of thing.
From that moment that Laura frustratingly calls him a litter bug, you know it's on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if anyone is wondering the name of the guy that chases you around all over Greece, his name is Pierre Dupont.
It just dawned on me, that guy's French.
Yep, he's French. The next section of the game we go to is Egypt, and here we encounter more different animals. There's panthers here.
That's a panther?
Yep. It's a panther.
Well, I mean, it goes with the color scheme of the tomb and all that good.
Throughout Egypt, we have a lot more nice platforming experiences. We fight a lot of panthers, and we fight a dude named Larson at the end of it, who says he still has a pain in his brain from the kick in Peru. At the end of this segment of the game, a group of the baddies also catch up to Lara and take all of her weapons. They also take the artifacts she's collected throughout the game and attempt to leave her for dead. However, Lara, being a quick thinker, jumps on her bike, jumps onto their boat, and goes straight to the next place with them, which is called Atlantis.
Misleading name, considering what we're about to see here.
Okay, I am not even kidding, guys, when I say I was not expecting a place called Atlantis to be this freaking creepy.
Yeah, the rooms have taken on a flesh-like motif, and there's all kinds of, like, mummies/zombies.
And that's only the beginning of how creepy this game gets. As you go in, the walls and the floors of Atlantis, they start to look like muscle and fat or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's a flesh-like motif. It can actually make you lose your appetite. The colors, might even scare some people. It's got a really interesting use of color.
Yeah, I'm not even kidding when I say the Atlantis section of this game turns into a straight up horror game.
Yeah, then not only flesh motif, but it pulsates too.
And if that weren't enough, there's also a complete species of zombie-like creatures called the Atlanteans. Some of them are humanoid, some of them appear to be centaurs, some of them are winged creatures that fly around and terrorize you, and all of them look extremely creepy.
They're a lot better with their bandages on.
Yeah, we were seeing them with their bandages on earlier, towards the end of the Egypt segment, but here in the Atlantis section of the game, they are just really, really creepy.
Not for the oversheltered.
At times, this game is more unsettling than actual horror games. I mean, when you hear one of those zombies moan, it's just odd.
Yeah, it gives an unsettling feeling. I'm not really scared by it per se, but I can see where people would be irked.
So after you get done with a few levels of platforming in the creepy Atlantis setting, we reach the end of the game. And this has you fighting against a few of the baddies. One of them is just generically called Bald Man, according to the wiki at least. The other one is a businesswoman the one that originally hired Laura in the beginning of the game. Yeah, she's back, and eventually she ends up with wings, like the Atlanteans, and the game basically ends with Laura destroying the artifact that she was originally after, and Laura simply bailing off the continent by boat.
Yeah, if she didn't, she would perish in the explosion.
The adventure was all for naught. Laura, she came and she blew some stuff up, but that was about all.
Well, she had to do that, otherwise this weird suit type would have tried something like world domination or something, I don't know.
Yeah, but just know throughout every difficult jump you made, every enemy you fought, every puzzle you solved, all that time you spent racking your brain, you've got nothing to show for it. It was all in vain.
Well, I kind of think the whole her messing up the world thing, preventing that might have meant something. Because with a pyramid that creepy, what was she planning? I know. Am I the only one that's asking that question?
So the story is very simple, as you can tell. I obviously didn't go into all the details of it, but the story could basically be completely laid out in a 10-minute video without any sort of problems whatsoever. But the story works. And for a PS1 game, it's as fleshed out as it can be, I think, especially one this early in the generation. This game was obviously not like a Final Fantasy game, but it was a lot more held back by its limitations because of how big and open it was, and also because of how early in the console's lifespan it was. So what we've got here is a simplistic adventure with some exceptional puzzle solving and platforming challenges.
But when you do finally finish it, I think you'll walk away with a sense of accomplishment, especially surviving all the death traps and jumping from one place to another and messing up like 50 times and finally landing it. I think that you'll be satisfied knowing that you took on a game that was very difficult and you actually beat it.
And yeah, the game's story, as simple as it may be, I guess that kind of goes along with the action-adventure setting that the game has. Even though it's simple and it's definitely not going to take any detective work to understand, it kind of has enough material there that I feel like it would work if it were an action movie. As for the sound in the game, I feel like the music is really good for a lot of music fans. It's not the kind of music that you would sit and listen to because it's not really made for that. The music that does appear in this game is definitely more ambient and atmospheric, but it works really well for the setting. And even in levels that didn't have a lot of music, like the Atlantis section of the game, there was no music there. There was just this weird pulsating sound, but it gave such a weird atmosphere to it.
Yeah, the sound's not top tier by any means, but I get what he's saying. It's also something of satisfaction or maybe even comfort when you're wandering around aimlessly on the stage and you find something of importance and you get that deduction sounding theme or whatever that excites you and tells you that you're gonna progress very soon, if not immediately.
Yeah, those little notes that you get when you discover something, those are amazing.
The voice acting is not so great. Some of the actresses don't fully believe their role, and therefore it's a little immersion breaking. Some are better than others, but that's a problem I'd like to point out. It's not great.
If that is the phrase. Well, your little vacation riot's over now. Time to give back what you've hijacked off me.
Let's try the lunchbox.
Places like the pain in my brain guy, it actually works to our benefit. It gives us a little comedic relief.
Yes, the guy that says there's a pain in my brain, and the guy that runs around on a skateboard while shooting at us. Those two give us a lot of laughs. I also think that Laura has a good voice actress that kind of masters sarcasm, but beyond that, it's pretty basic.
Yeah, Laura's the best one. The henchmen, the evil people, not so much.
So basically, that covers the experience of Tomb Raider 1 Remastered. This game is definitely a retro treat. It's not modern in any way, shape, or form, but it is a good game that can be appreciated in its own way. It can be very much loved if you are willing to accept the fact that this is a product of its time and not a modern one. For some, this game will be a pleasant blast of nostalgia, and for others, this game will be quite rage-inducing. However, I do encourage you to give this game a chance because there's a lot to love here. The more you play it, the less you're going to care about how dated it is. The more you play it, the more natural it's going to feel. It's not going to continue to feel as awkward as it does when you first boot it up. You will get into the swing of it. So anyways, that sums it up. Unless you're just somebody that is not willing to give retro gaming the time of day at all, then pick these games up. They're worth it. Alright guys, that wraps it up. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, and have a great day.